This video is sponsored by NetEase, and God bless them for it too, because initially I wasn't aware of Sea of Remnants until I was offered the opportunity to cover it. And when I watched a trailer to see if it would be something up my alley, I felt the deep instinctual part of me that wants to be marooned on an island come alive. For those who aren't aware, I love pirates, I love the tropics, and I absolutely love turn-based RPGs. Puppets not so much, but when they carry this much stylized aura, it's easy to get on board. As you can tell, I'm here to yell about Sea of Remnants, the open-world fantasy RPG created by Joker.
Ravage them!
Oh my god, this isn't about you!
Obviously, this is not the first swashbuckling pirate game or even the first pirate game to use sea in the title, but something doesn't have to be a trailblazer to be fun and worthwhile. It just needs to have the right combination of familiar things with personality to be distinctly entertaining. Sea of Remnants is just that, and I was legitimately surprised with how much I ended up liking it and even got a little sad when the Alpha Network test was over and they kicked me out. Now, for transparency, and for the fact that it's literally labeled on all my footage, I did not experience the full quality of the public release, which is mainly apparent in the amount of placeholder localization text and some visual hiccups, but it's safe to assume that by the official launch,
don't worry, Captain, we'll buff out those scratches.
Overall, the fundamentals of my experience were rock solid, and the game is set to have consistent updates with new quests to keep the free-to-play adventure fresh. But just from the get-go, there was a plethora of content to engage with, all wrapped up in a well-executed open-sea odyssey, bursting at the seams with charm, confetti, and heavenly light. But let's set sail for those details, cause story-wise, the game starts off rather ominously. You are a lost puppet folk on a spirit sea, aimlessly floating around, until you're abruptly blasted by a ghost boat, swallowed up by the moon, and then subsequently spat out onto shore, only then to be revived by a nerdy doctor. From here, you wake up to a Mind Palace existential questionnaire, learn you're a blank-faced puppet folk with amnesia, and then you're right into the character creator to start your pirate roleplay adventure. The customizable character creator is a big highlight of the game, which lets you carve out the puppet folk of your dreams or nightmare. It's a robust set of templates, sliders, and color options that you can spend hours flipping through for max personalization, or if you just like gazing into those big old sad eyes. Anyway, once you're done creating your character, there's a little exposition dump, and then you get a swift kick out the door to begin your journey. You, John Puppetman, or in my case, Jane Sparrow, washed up on Port Op and lost your memories. By following a lead in town, you hope to recover the remnants of your mysterious past. Through this endeavor, you recover a ship and crew up with other amnesiac puppet folk in hopes of finding out the truth of how everyone collectively got washed up by the sea at some point. Now, it's a basic premise, but the story has decent narrative hooks for an ongoing escapade across the open waters. Games like this are designed with an overarching main story that leaves a lot of room for mini tales in between the big reveals, putting a large emphasis on it being about the journey rather than the destination. Although the destination definitely does matter, because apparently there are multiple endings, and what's up with all the spooky surreal mumbo-jumbo in the beginning?
What is your view of death?
Like, this is some heavy pondering out the gate, oh my god. The story's not really subverting expectations, especially when the crew members fit snug in their little tropes, but definitely something to note is that it's funny. With the fun part bolded, there is a persistent slapstick rhythm to every cutscene, and every interaction is animated with enthusiasm. Tonally, the game reminds me a lot of the 2005 film Robots, both in humor and in looks, low-key. I personally find this very endearing just because I've seen the movie countless times as a DVD-loving millennial.
Now that's funny!
But I'm not sure if I just jive with this game because it subliminally pleases my brain through the comparison. Much to think about, but it's very cute. So where the narrative lacks originality, it makes up for in expression. The main appeal of the story is just the sightseeing, the little adventures in between, and interacting with the puppet folk population. In fact, you can interact with every character you come across, all with unique names, faces, bodies, and bonding opportunities. Also, other players can leave messages in bottles basically anywhere, and a bunch of folks a part of the network test were going absolutely feral for Cook. Personally, didn't come across anyone fitting that name or description, but now I'm really curious what the hootin' and hollerin' was about. Clearly, they were making an impression. Of course, not every NPC gets a super thorough background or makes folks weak at the knees, but the level of interaction that you can have with the whole population does make this world feel very lively and reactive. And speaking of the world, once you complete the brief tutorial, you're set set loose to sail across the open seas. There's obvious guidance on how to progress the main story objectives, but you are totally free to explore the various islands at your leisure as long as you nail the parking job.
And stop.
Points of interest are clearly marked on your map, and a big thing to note is that every location feels densely packed. From fighting, pillaging, plundering, puzzling, and platforming, it's worthwhile to explore every nook and cranny because every nook and cranny is surprisingly filled, especially if you're looking for seafood buffets.
Oh, baby, get the butter.
The activities, events, and main story missions are compartmentalized throughout the areas, but each island's got range, from the general size, the verticality, and the views. I managed to clock in about 30 hours of playtime in 3 days, and not a single location felt repeated or barren. The explorer in me kept revving up the second I rolled up on any beach because I could count on my curiosity being satisfied even without starting a mission. Although, one reliable mainstay is the abundance of hamsters. Like, we're talking mini-games, collectibles, shrines, loading screens, combat initiation. The hamster is, unironically, the mascot of this game, and I'm assuming the god of this world. No clue what spurred on the enthusiasm to include them in every facet possible, but as someone who adores hamster for a myriad of reasons, I love their inclusion. Now, of course, this wouldn't be an open-world game without going to a large tower to unlock the area's map visibility. However, Sea of Remnants avoids the tedious pitfall of exploration because you just need to climb some stairs, ring a bell, and suddenly you can see a massive chunk of the map. Also, as you collect more treasures and complete side missions, the map allows for faster navigation on the sea and access to more difficult areas. The game also avoids tedium by allowing you to teleport back to your ship and the main hub at any time. There is a lot to see and a lot to do, but there are strong incentives to interact with everything, since even the most minor collectible and accomplishment feeds back into the character or story progression in some notable way. Basically, it felt like everything counted and I wasn't just wasting my time vibing. But what's the point of having a bucket of activities to choose from if they ain't fun? And luckily, everything I came across had that enjoyable minigame whimsy that didn't overstay its welcome. For instance, there are magic doors on most islands that act as portals to different challenges, and one of them led me to a room that was like a pilot episode of Hole in the Wall. Fun times. The gameplay variety is kinda staggering though, like I can't even list off everything I came across. All I can offer is this wacky montage. In short, the hamsters kept me busy, the platforming was poppin', and the NPCs really love Mahjong. Making your way between islands is also a lively time because you can either hit the pink turbo paths and coast to your next location, or go totally free-range banana mode on anything in your sightlines. From other ships to freaky monsters, sea combat is really just sailing circles around targets and unloading your cannons until the health bar gives up, but they're a cathartic flash-in-the-pan pastime that came as naturally as the tide. However, the real meat and potatoes of the gameplay is the combat, and to my absolute surprise and delight, it's good old-fashioned turn-based, baby. Various enemies and bosses are littered throughout the islands, and similar to other games in the genre, low-level enemies can be defeated on the spot with a quick combo, but tougher adversaries can be attacked to gain an advantage for the actual battle. From here, the standard turn-based rules of tit-for-tat and number whacks takes effect. You'll go up against magical creatures, large beasts, gangs of goons, and the British. But the combat has all of the RPG essentials, like buffs and debuffs, elemental weaknesses, whose numbers are the fatter numbers, and the smooth grind necessities like battle speed boosts and auto attack toggles. However, Sea of Remnants adds its own flavor, such as the enhancement dice mechanic, which makes rudimentary stab wounds feel like guttural jackpots. Big fan of this. Another highlight are the Showtime special attacks that put on a big old song and dance wind-up before hitting like a shipping container full of kaleidoscopes. Although, where the combat shines the brightest are through the different party members. Each crew member is wildly different from each other and have their own build paths, special attacks, and flamboyant attitudes that serve. Throughout my playtime, I felt a big incentive to add as many crew members as I could because I just wanted to see what their Showtime attacks were because, I don't know, just look at this.
Forgive me. It must be done.
Shout out to Hatchet. Love my little vampire Pookies, awesome. Now, in standard encounters, the combat can become rather automated with the speed-up features, so you don't constantly have to be decisively locked in to win. In true RPG fashion, success in battle is more about party-level prep, character builds, and equipment, hence why all of the other activities outside of the combat are worth the endeavor. There are a lot of options to build up your characters, crew, and even ship, so there's plenty of flexibility for any party setup and playstyle. You just gotta make a habit of resting at bonfires to toss some upgrade shells around, pick where you want to dump your points, and when you're done, cook up some kebabs. And with that, what's looking good cooking, cause this game is very pretty. Truly goes without saying, but Sea of Remnants is visually vibrant in every department and asks the bold question of, what if Harley Quinn was a puppet? But seriously, while there are plenty of stylized games out there, Sea of Remnants' art direction ain't lacking in any effort, color, or calligraphy. The presentation is absolutely drowning in paint motifs and low-key giving Fortiche realness, if you know what I mean. Kinda similar to deep frying a cartoon in Hot Topic oil. Complimentary, of course. The helpful UI, smooth menus, and adorable tutorials also add a poignant flair with all that prominent pink. It all comes together to serve some tasty eye candy, but what I enjoyed seeing the most were the lush tropical landscapes swaying with the wind and the sandy beaches catching the light of the setting sun, and hey, that looks really familiar. All of the extra environmental effects and wildlife give the areas that raw Mother Nature aura, where sometimes I just got distracted staring off into the horizon. But as one player's message best put it, the big guy would love it here. So the world has a cozy familiarity mixed in with bombastic animations, and it's all bundled up with satisfying sound design, befitting tunes, and hamsters. Like so many hamsters, you know, makes you wonder, like, do you really know who your god is? Anyway, to wrap it up, I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing Sea of Remnants. Even though there were some rough spots in the network test, it's all stuff that will clearly be addressed by launch because everything else in the game's got that quality polish. You know, as much as I rail against the ills of modern gaming, I'm actually neutral on free-to-play models because ultimately, I like accessibility. As long as the fun factor isn't walled off and the experience feels refined, making something free to access is a positive for any curious gamer. I understand the gacha model can grind some folks' gears for various reasons, but in a, pun intended, sea of free-to-play gacha games to choose from, why not pick one that actually pops out and feels weirdly nostalgic?
What? I gotcha!
Like I said before, this isn't the first open-world pirate game, but Sea of Remnants comes packed with everything that's expected and more. The flashy art direction, nuanced combat, puppet personalization, and volume of charming characters and locations helps elevate this beyond any cookie-cutter experience. It feels like a living, breathing world, with fresh content washing up on the shores with future updates. All of this to say, pretty worthwhile indeed. Thank you again, NetEase, for sponsoring this video, and if you want to know more about Sea of Remnants, which is slated to come out this year, check out the link in the description below. Also, if you end up jumping into the future, let me know if you find Cook. I'm serious. I need to know what was getting everybody hot and bothered. I want to be in on it.
Where is he?